GW Tinkle says, as a Star Citizen player, can you give me any solid reasons to buy Starfield? I never looked into it. I can give you one solid reason right now. Before I do, I have to make a statement. I've been a Star Citizen backer since Kickstarter. We just did a 2024 dive-in about a couple months back. I don't regularly play it. I do support the vision, support what they're building. I'm very much in a, I'll play it when it comes out. But apart from that, I don't regularly participate in all of the stuff. So I say this with all seriousness. Can you give any solid reasons to play Starfield above Star Citizen? The biggest reason I can give you, it's an actual launched product. That's the biggest reason I can give you right there. Joking aside, I think that every game is going to do things differently. Like, we've had a lot of people who talk about, No Man's Sky this, No Man's Sky this, Star Citizen that, Star Citizen this. The reality is every game is going to do things differently, and we should not want all games to do things the same. So it's great that Star Citizen is doing what they're doing. I'm not really as much of a fan of Star Citizen as I am of the Squadron 42 component. I'm much more interested in the single-player RPG space sim that they're going to be building there. Starfield is not a space sim. It is not a flight sim. So if one of the things you really love about Star Citizen is having a HOTAS setup, whether it's dual stick or one stick or throttle and stick, if you love the flight systems and the space sim stuff in Star Citizen, that is not in Starfield. And a lot of people have come over expecting it to be here because they're like, oh, you're shipbuilding, all these different types of ships you can have. It doesn't have that flight system. It's not that game. If you've ever played Fallout, Oblivion, Elder Scrolls Online, Skyrim, any of those games, then you're going to understand what this is. This is a Bethesda RPG set in space. Let me get out here so that I have a little bit of room for the camera. So I'll leave my gun out. That might be a cool visual here when it turns around. So I say that of saying that if you're a fan of Bethesda RPGs, you're going to be a fan of this game. But I think the baggage that people bring into it, from like, I love Elite Dangerous, I love Star Citizen, I love No Man's Sky, and then they come to this game and they try to apply those same labels to this game, those are the people who are so sorely disappointed, because they're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. This isn't Elite Dangerous, it's not No Man's Sky, it's not Star Citizen. This game has your traditional Bethesda-style storylines. So we have companions. The companion AI is sometimes fun, especially when it comes to stealth. The classic Bethesda RPG experience is here. So, as an example, we have a rich and branching skill system, which allows you to do many different things. Each one of these skills has tiers that you can go through. There's outpost building. There is ship building. There are faction quests. There are radiant quests. There is ship combat. There is ground combat. There's melee combat. There's gun combat. There's lots of good writing and lots of kind of not so great writing with like side quests. Most of it is very good. You have the powers, which I don't have very many of because that's not a part of the game that I'm hugely keen on exploring. But if you've ever played Skyrim and you remember the dragon shouts, that's what this is. You can go through and earn these magical space powers, which allow you to enhance your traditional gun combat and things with like being able to do stasis holds on mobs, give yourself more oxygen, jump farther, take more damage, do AoE knockbacks, special magical powers. There are lots of different things that you could do in this game. If you want to play it as a run and gun RPG and don't even touch the space stuff, you can absolutely do that. Alternatively, if you want to go become a space trucker and just ferry goods between locations, you can. You can build outposts and set up supply chains where you have automatic factories on planets doing mining for nodes, shipping those things to a manufacturing facility, and then selling those things from the manufacturing facility. So you can establish yourself as a trade baron and live that out here. So this is where there's some of the crossovers between this and Star Citizen, some of the crossovers between here and No Man's Sky, some of the crossovers between here and Elite Dangerous. How did you get in my room? Who is this, Finny? That's Frodo. Come here, Frodo. So, there's lots of things that are similar to what Star Citizen is doing. So, yeah, absolutely. It's more akin to an RPG. So I would say that if you like RPGs, you'll like Starfield. If you like Bethesda games, you're definitely going to like Starfield. If you've ever played Skyrim, Fallout, Oblivion, any of their games, this feels and plays... Oh my god. Chris just put Frodo in here and he's going crazy. There's also a very complex crafting system here where I can go downstairs. We can go check it out here in a minute. I can modify and craft backpacks, spacesuits, weapons, the helmet. Like, we're still in the lodge, aren't we? Yeah. Let's go downstairs, take a look at that really quick. So, like, down here is the crafting station. Stations. There's a weapons workbench, a spacesuit workbench. We've got an industrial workbench. We've got a pharmaceutical lab and a cooking station. And over here is our research station where we can learn all sorts of different things in the game. So there's all these different things you can craft. There are lots of different ships. Can I see all my different ships from here? I know I can see one of my ships. Yes, I can see all my ships. So I currently have 7 ships. This is my home ship. This is the starter ship. This is a ship I got from a quest line. I don't remember where I got that ship. Probably from a quest line. This one I got from a quest line. This one I got from a quest line. And this one I stole from a pirate. And this one I'm actually going to go in and mod, because right now it's just a junker watchdog. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to add some storage units to the side and make this into more of like a mid-tier hauler with some gunplay, because this ship's really responsive. I really like the way this ship flies. I like the way it looks. I modded one of these my first playthrough and built it out as like a mid-range run and gun smuggler. It was a lot of fun getting the contraband smuggler on there, contraband shield, and everything else. So that's the other thing too. You can totally be a space pirate in this game, but you got to have like a contraband shield to get you past the space police. So there are a lot of things that are similar to what Star Citizen is building. They are just done in Bethesda's way. There are, yes, and you can build planets from scratch. I've got some planet building guides on my channel, along with a bunch of other guides. If you've never played this, I've got 2 versions of the Ultimate Beginner's Guides. Starfield has been very good to my channel over the past year since it launched. We've done 2 playthroughs, over 500 hours. I've streamed both sessions. I've done a boatload of guides. There's a few hundred videos, I think, between the 2 Starfield playlists. Build ships from scratch. You can steal ships. You can modify ships. You can do lots of things with the ship building and the outpost building. They've added way more stuff in, like we have all these housing options that you can have now, so you can have housing in different places. I have a penthouse on the main planet because I'm a perfect citizen of the Republic. So, I would say there are lots of things here, but the big difference, which I joked about at the beginning, the difference between this and Starfield is that this is a launched game as opposed to Starfield, or excuse me, it's Star Citizen. Star Citizen is still very much still in development, and this is actually launched. But the joke is that no launched game is ever actually launched. If you look at the amount of content that Bethesda has patched into Starfield since they launched in the last year, we've gotten so many major updates, not the least of which was the rover update like a month ago. We got land rovers. And then like back in May, they added survival options, so food and drink, making food more potent, the ability to craft ammo, aim assist on consoles, performance modes on consoles so that we can target 30, 60, or untapped frames. So there's been a ton of patches in the last year that have made this game bigger and better. They even updated all the maps for those who didn't know. Like the maps now, if you go check out the planetary maps. Um, I'm inside, so I'm not going to be able to see it. I would need to go somewhere else on the planet. Like, let's go over here really quick. Just so I can show you the maps as an example. These are all things that are different from when it first launched. The new city map's correct, but I wanted to show the overland map first. I know there's a way to get there, but I'm talking and doing things at the same time, so it wasn't getting there right away. And I remember I got to do like LB and then RB or something. Whatever. We're gonna see it here in a second. The 1,000 planets that they have in this game.
I never tire of visiting worlds like this.
The way they've done the procedural tech mixed in with the handcrafted regions is, for me, very impressive. We've got third person or first person modes. I play in first person because that's the way I prefer. But like we can go in here. How do I? It's from here, I think. Go from here. Surface map. That's what I was looking for. I haven't played in a few months. So I was trying to remember how to do this. These new surface maps they added are really cool because they've got the different levels of like being able to actually see the assets placed in the ground, like here. And then in cities, you actually get to see all the tiers and everything else. We could see our ship here. So we could probably fast travel, over here to our ship if we wanted to. Should be, because we're not outside near our ship. You can also bring this up and... Oop, we got something over here we can scan and go to. Also, tech, I've got that outpost that I haven't seen. So, I mean, it's a big game. There's lots to do. Yeah, but see, here's the thing. In terms of companies releasing unfinished games. No game is ever finished, guys. The era we live in, and this is something that everybody just needs to come to grips with. Games that release in 2024 are infinitely more complex than the games of 1994 or the games of 1984, where we had a few hundred lines of code and pixelated graphics, or text-only games. We now have games that have millions of lines of code, and they are being played on tens of thousands of different types of devices when you talk about chipsets and GPUs and drivers and motherboards and all the ways that people play games on PC versus consoles and everything else. Games that are released in 2024 are never going to be complete the way they were in 1984 or 1994 because we are magnitudes of complexity beyond, and it's no longer 5,000 people playing a game. It's 50 million people playing a game. And when there are 50 million people playing through a game and finding little bugs and stuff, that's the nature of the world we live and play in. Exactly, Frankie. And a lot of the days, those old cartridges might have a game-breaking thing on them and you were stuck with it because there was no way to patch that. Modern games in 2024, that's the way they release. They're released with complexities and patches that are required to fix all these little things that crop up when you have 25, 35, 45, 50 million people playing your game. Slippy's when Wes says, one day I'm a day one No Man's Sky player. That game's still not finished and I'm over 8,000 hours into it and it's 8 years old. Correct. That's a perfect example of a game that's a live service game that is continually being patched. No Man's Sky is a great example of what can be achieved with a game if people just allow it breathing space and time to get its footing underneath it and patch all the quirks out of it and make it into something better. Starfield, like many other games, launched with some quirks. Those have been being patched out, and I think that in another 7 years, people will look back on this game the same way they look at No Man's Sky now and say, holy shit, what a huge difference 8 years has made. How amazing is... Because you can go back to every launch from Bethesda, whether it's Skyrim, Oblivion, Fallout 4. Those games all launched with bugs and a lack of content compared to where they are now years later. And a lot of people forget about that. They're like, oh, that game launched, it was perfect. No, it wasn't. Fallout 4 had lots of issues when it launched. It was patched, they did DLCs, and over time, it became a really big ass, awesome game. It started with the core of something and became better. So um, there's lots of nuance to games releasing these days, and also why something like Starfield will never be finished, and why something like Star Citizen will truly never be finished. So anyway, we haven't done a good Starfield versus Star Citizen chat in about a year, so this is going to get clipped out for YouTube. So thanks for asking that question. Um, that was a fun little side thing that we're going to clip out. And if you're watching this later on YouTube, daily streams here and on Twitch, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, all those things.